What's up, homies? Okay, so I felt the need to do this little explainer video here because I've got people trying to enter email forms on their sites, and we've got some questions over, well, what's the best way to do that? And the thing is, when we grab an email form, we're getting the basic information for the form from an email provider. Okay, I use Aweber, so I'm going to use that as you know, in this demonstration, but the same rules sort of apply no matter what email campaign provider you have. Maybe it's MailChimp, maybe it's Constant Contact. You know, there's tons and tons of email providers out there, but they all sort of do the same thing in terms of giving you HTML forms to input onto your website. So I'm going to show you what I think is the best way to do that right now, and the way that I'm doing this on DIYthemes.com and also on my personal site. So let's dive in and take a look. So the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to try and grab the HTML from the email provider. So in this case, it's Aweber. We go over here to sign up forms. We're going to go in here and look at the only form I have. Now here's the thing, and this is probably the case on MailChimp and other providers as well. Got all these tools and all these things you can do. And here's the thing. It's easy to look at this and say, oh, well, this is, you know, I want one of these outcomes, so I'm going to choose to use it in this capacity. You do not want to take the styles and stuff from the email campaign provider and just throw this stuff on your site. The primary reason why is because when you grab this form, it's not just the form. It should be just the form, and they should give you the option to just do the form, but they don't do that because nobody wants just an unstyled form on their website. Like, that's like a job half done. I think we all have, you know, a good sense for that. But if you use their styles and things like that, they give you a ton of crap that you end up sticking into your website. It makes your pages slower, it makes them less efficient, and in many cases, like Aweber commits some sins, web standards sins, by including what's called inline CSS, which is a big no-no, and then also the use of JavaScript for, you know, very little effect, or stuff that's just non-essential. So I dislike the use of non-essential items. I certainly don't like violating web standards. That's a big no-no. And I also just don't like the largesse of this whole thing, the way this plays out. You want to do things as efficiently as possible. That's the whole point here. So we're going to bypass all this stuff. Like, what kind of form? You want a popover, lightbox, pop-up. That's for you to implement on the site side of things, on your site, not by taking their code, which is never going to be modular. It's not going to be reusable. It's not set up to be placed in a high-performance website. This is set up to placate you. You have an immediate need, an immediate desire. Aweber can help you, or whatever email provider can help you achieve that by doing this, but the cost of that is you get all this crap on your site, and it's then harder to maintain, and it's slower. With opt-ins, things like that, speed is paramount, and so that's what we want to focus on. So with Aweber, for example, I don't even look at this. I skip all this and go straight to publish. All right? Straight to publish. Let's see. We'll see what we have. So we have, I will install my form. Okay. So if it's web designer, it sends them code, but it doesn't matter. It's the same stuff. Aweber has two ways to do this. The JavaScript version and then the raw HTML version. The JavaScript version is the ultimate sin. When this is included in your website, this becomes what's called a render blocking resource. So that means if you were to put this in your page, and let's say we put it, well, my mouse isn't working here. Don't know why that is. There we go. All right, so we put it, let's say we stuck it at the bottom of this page. Well, when this page began to render, if a visitor comes to it, as soon as it reached this part where that script has to load, the page is going to stall. It's going to load all that stuff up, and then it's going to be janky when it loads because it's going to shove things out of the way to accommodate this new thing that's getting injected into the markup. It creates a janky sort of loading experience. It's just not good. It's not a good user experience. And then in addition, like I said, the JavaScript is just super slow. So it's a big no, big no. So we want to do the raw HTML version. But the problem with this is they give you the kitchen freaking sink here. So if we just grab this, I mean, it's huge. Well, I'll do this just for effect. So I'm going to copy this. Back over on my Focus website, I'm going to go down here to modular content. We want to use the modular content feature to set up our email forms because it's the most efficient way to do it. We can use and reuse them. You can see I already have one here called email form number 1. We're going to add a new one called the Aweber email form. I'm going to flip over to the text editor since I'm pasting code. And I'm just going to paste this. This is everything Aweber gave me for this particular form. Oh my gosh, that is a lot of stuff. I got to tell you, forms are not that complicated. And we'll see in just a second how not complicated forms really are. But this includes JavaScript. This doesn't need to be there. Some more JavaScript here. That doesn't need to be there. It's not mission critical. And then we have this ending style tag, and it goes all the way up to the top, all the way up to the very top. This is all the CSS styles Aweber thinks is necessary to make the form render however you want. But you know, the reality of these styles is that they make the form look really ugly, and it's still inadequate. And look at all this crap. It's just a lot of crap. You don't need any of this. So like I said, I have gone over here, I've copied all that code, I've pasted it, but we don't need any of it. We don't need any of this style stuff. I'm getting rid of that Aweber form generator. I don't care about that. So we're just going to nuke all of these styles, all of them. And you might say, well, isn't that going to leave my form naked? Sort of, but not really. Focus includes styles for input elements, which is anything inside a form. So Focus already has basic styles for those. And then, so you don't need to just add all these other ones. They're just going to cause some conflicts and make it even harder to customize some of the stuff you want to customize. So there's just no need to, you certainly don't need any of their styles. And if you just start with a Focus base and then you see what your outcome is, then you can just layer on the absolute bare minimum of additional stuff to get to the outcome you want. So this is just the most efficient approach. I take issue with just certain stuff about their form markup, spacing. They have this div style equals display none. That's so these input elements do not appear. But you'll notice these are all hidden input elements. By definition, they don't appear. This is goofy. Like, what? Like, come on now. So we don't need that. We don't need the div. Now, I realize this probably looks like Chinese to most people. This is not the types of actions that most people want to take. Like, it bothers me that Aweber, like the raw HTML version, no, this is not a raw HTML version. This is HTML with a bunch of extra crap. Where's the actual raw HTML version with Aweber? So anyhow, I'm going to point out some of the stuff we actually need here. We need a form tag that delineates the form, the email form, the sign up form. Got to have that. Got to have inputs, or else we got no information coming from our form. The most important thing here, this web form ID, that doesn't matter. Split ID, it's not even being used. List name, this is the most important thing in the whole deal. Because this says which list, if people can fill out this sign-up form, which list are they going to be added to? So this is essential. This redirect is to a thank you page. Currently, this thank you page is hosted on Aweber, but you could replace this URL with anything you want. And then after a user submits the form, they will be taken to the URL you specify here. So typically, every time I set up an email form on my site, I also set up a thank you page saying, hey, thanks for subscribing, do this next. That's just good practice. You've got ad tracking here. So this goes back to the Aweber backend. If you end up looking through your stats and whatnot, you can see which visitors came to you through which form. So sometimes that's helpful. It's sort of advanced, but I keep that in there. See which fields are required. By default, Aweber and probably most email campaign providers will have name and email being required in there. I like to back out name and just have email in there. The reason being is we see that when you ask for more information, that conversions on forms go down. So you want to ask for the minimum amount of information. There's no real need to ask somebody for their name up front. You could ask them for that on the back end if you feel like this is super critical for your form, or you could just include it up front. But like I said, I do not require a name because that drops conversions. I really just need the user's email address, and we can go from there. So let's see here. We've got some more stuff here. this is just waste. Got 3 divs. We'll kill 2 of them, and there was nothing in there. All this stuff, I mean, this is all lame. We don't have the name field because we're not requiring that, so I got rid of that. So we're gonna just kill that, kill that, kill that. I mean, you can see this is not, this is cryptic and not great. So here we go. We finally got to something that matters. We don't even need that wrapping markup around it. We can get rid of we'll just get rid of everything except this submit button. Privacy policy, we don't need that. Email privacy, nobody wants that. That'll drop conversions too. Powered by Aweber, we certainly don't want that. Look at all this junk, all this crap. We don't need any of this. So lame. That's an Aweber pixel. This last thing here, we don't need that. We do need that closing form tag. Okay, so what I've done, I've gotten rid of everything except for the label and the input field for the email. We don't need that div either. So a label element, which isn't even done right, then an input element, and then the submit element, that's the button that's going to submit the form for us, so we definitely need that. And so right now it's separated out from these hidden inputs, which they don't even display. So we've got our opening form tag, some interior hidden inputs, our actual input for the email address plus a label, and then the submit button. And then we have all this extra JavaScript at the end. Don't need any of this crap. Not one bit of it. So the original thing that I copied and pasted was huge. And you saw it. I mean, this is a ton of code. And in reality, this is all we needed. And we didn't even need this much. I could get rid of some of these other hidden fields too. I'm not going to do that. I don't see any, there's no compelling reason to do that. And the only other thing we'd want to change from this is possibly, the ad tracking. This would be email form 2 or we'll say Aweber form, whatever. It doesn't matter. And then we could change the redirect URL for after they sign up to the list. But that'd be it. So I'm going to tighten up this spacing. I'm going to save this, publish this. And then, so now this is saved. Our form, our naked HTML form from Aweber is saved in a modular content. It's this one, 2308 here. And now I will select this to display at the bottom of this post. Right now we've got different modular content, but we will choose that one to display on this page, sort of just as a demonstration here. So we will display Aweber email form at the bottom here. Okay, here it is. So what we've got is a bunch of stuff that, a bunch of dead spacing here, which is probably why Aweber had included that display none div that I mentioned earlier in this discussion. But let's investigate what the heck is really going on here. All right, here it is. It's the modular. That indicates modular content is served within the alert box wrapper right now. We could change that if we wanted. Let's see. It's sort of not germane to this discussion. We'll say that we'll leave it unstyled. That way this will be very, very clear. Okay, here it is. So we've got all these hidden inputs are creating output. Okay, so there's BR tags. That's why there's a lot of output there. So this is great. I forgot to do one important thing. When you include an email form or anything like this hardcore markup, it's not just content. If you're not writing paragraphs of text and normal content, you want to select disable automatic P tags for this modular content. We'll hit update. And then we go back over here and they're gone. Now it's tight. Now this form is tight and all the hidden inputs are actually hidden. And watch these, I'll refresh this and these BR tags will disappear. Boom. So now we have just our naked form that we have, really thinned out. That is what's being output here. So now we have the little label, and then we have the actual email input, and then a submit button. And if we wanted to change this stuff, so like right now, this is default button styling in Focus. If we wanted to change that, for example, we could go right down here, locate the submit button here, and we could change the class here. We could actually change that to button and save, and that'll turn it green based on the default focus options. Let's see what it does. Boom. So we changed that to that color. Just a quick note here to bring all this together. We're going to go to the design options, and if we go down here to site elements and then to buttons, we have default style, which is what was originally showing in gray there. That means we haven't added a custom class here like I just did. Instead of adding button save, if it had nothing, it would just render as, well, it had submit there. That makes it render as a default button, whatever. But we have save, delete, action, and update. So we could just as easily go in here or go into our modular content and make it button action instead of save. We'll see what that does. That makes it that blue color. And you can change all this in your design options. You can make these whatever you want. But you got a few different button styles that you can use to achieve different effects, different colors, whatever. I do this on DIYthemes.com. Let me show you. For some reason, internet is being slow today. But so I have a green button on this thing here on my main presentation, and then I have a red button on this side. So I've used button style equals save here, and then the save style, and then this one is delete style to make it red. But that just happens to work in this particular context, so that's why I do it that way. So anyway, there's that. And back to our form. So that is how we take this raw HTML output, stick it over in modular content, and then we get the this type of tight output with no extra junk. This ensures that it renders very fast on your website. And then we can change some of the styles that we see, or some of the what we've got here. We can adjust that by doing adding the classes like I showed you. But now here's another question that's going to come up right away is maybe I want some more space between the input form and the button. What can we do? I'll go back over here to modular content. We can wrap the label and the email input in p tags, paragraph tags, and let's see what happens. Okay, that has now distanced the button from the input. We could make that label bold. There's a lot of ways we could do that. We could just go straight into it and say add strong tags around it, or just as easily highlight it and select bold. Okay, I mean there's many ways to do this. All the results are the same. Bold, we'll save that. So that's one way to make only this form label bold without bolding all of the input labels that appear all over your site. If you wanted to do that though, you could do that as well. You go into the design options, we will locate inputs, labels, and then we can just say font style bold, save it, go back over here. I'm going to get rid of those tags that force it to be bold. And here we go. It's still bold, even though we don't have the strong tags in there. So there's lots of ways to control that stuff. It's just a little extra tidbit. But this is how you're going to deliver your basic email form. And, I could go down a deep rabbit hole here about different styles and, making this not span the full width of the content in a desktop view. That's too much for now. But what I wanted to show you is what you get, what Aweber gives you and other email providers, what they give you versus what you actually need, which is almost nothing. Almost nothing comparatively. So it is frustrating from my point of view to have to navigate or guide you through this type of thing. It's like they could just give you the minimum and this would be much easier. Just give me nothing. So you can uncheck this to not include beautiful form styles. I forgot about this. So uncheck to get basic, an unformatted basic form. Let's see how true that really is, yeah? So I've unselected it. So what it did, it got rid of all the CSS styles. So that's what you're going to want to do for sure, okay? So make sure you uncheck that box if you're using MailChimp or some other provider. Hopefully they have something similar. So this still includes a bunch of crap you don't need. Got these scripts in here. Don't need those either. So this is less for you to copy and paste into your modular content and then delete all the crap you don't want. But you know, bottom line is whatever they give you is a lot bigger than what you actually need. And so got some content about this, additional content about this exact practice over in the forums. If you have specific questions about how you can, you know, whittle down that code that they give you for use on your site, please hop over there and I can assist you with that. And it's worth noting, legacy thesis customers have access, some of them have access to a box called the Aweber email box, and there's also a MailChimp email box. Now, I have sort of stopped supporting these, but the whole reason I made these back in, you know, whenever I developed them in 2013 was because of how ridiculous these companies are about just giving you a damn form. It should be so easy. And so by using the email box, I sort of was able to shortcut that process to some extent. So I may revive those now that I know, you know, implementing those boxes was sort of a problem, but I have a better idea about how we can do that more easily. So I may revive those to make this process more easy. But, you know, for now, that's not the case. For now, you need to grab that HTML. I recommend you throw it into a piece of modular content so you can use and reuse it throughout your site. And that way you only have to do this one time for each email form you want to use, because obviously this is not, you know, the most savory process. Anyway, there it is. That's how you can get a bare bones email form on your site. You can put it wherever you want with modular content, and then it will be set up for you to style easily if you follow, you know, if you follow the steps I showed you here. All right. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Take it easy.